This is a Dalarna University production.
It's my great pleasure to introduce Bookerprize winner Anne Enright to Dalarna. She is here on a visit as part of her Irish itinerary. She will go from here to Stockholm, and then she goes to Gothenburg, and then on to Norway. Anne, you are very welcome to Dalarna.
Thank you, Irene.
It's your first time here in Dalarna.
It's lovely to be here.
But you have been in Sweden before, I understand.
I have. I was down in Stockholm in 2008 and in Gothenburg 2003, I think. But my first time up in the snowy north. I didn't know why I was coming to where it was darker, you know. Yeah. It's usually when you get on a plane you want it to be nice and sunny at the other end. Yeah. But the snow is lovely and the birds are singing and spring is on its way. Spring is on
its way, which is very nice, yes. I'm going to ask you a question which you have been asked many times before. You won the Booker Prize in 2007 and things changed very much since then, I'm sure, or have they?
Well, you know, when something rather extreme like that happens, the world changes very quickly, and that's very interesting to see the way the world looks at you shift in that. It's like a track zoom shot, you know, woof, you're in the public view very quickly and whatever. I found it quite disconcerting and not as interesting as it should have been. It was more alarming than interesting, more exciting than interesting. It's not something you can use creatively. It took a lot of the stress out of publishing and out of my professional life, and then, you know, added huge stresses in terms of travel. And I met a huge number of readers in 2008, and that really sustained me in what was a kind of a bit of a roller coaster ride, you know. So when I sat down to write my next novel, I wanted to write straight for all those readers that I had met, who were in a strange way somehow similar, that I felt that there was some call and response going on, that I had a similar kind of response in Australia, say, to, I don't know, Kansas. And then so The Forgotten Waltz, which is my next novel, was written straight to that reader that I'd met, not to the critic, not to the journalist, not to the academic actually, but to the reader.
So in that way it did help, of course, to meet this new reader that you hadn't met previously.
In all my life, my writing life, my motto is to take your problem and turn it into the solution, right? So when I had children, it was a big problem because, you know, you're going to stop writing, it's going to be terrible. I thought I was jumping off a cliff, you know, only to find that it wasn't, you know, it was just a ledge I had jumped off. And so I realised that I could turn the babies into a book. And make my problem, the problem in my life, as it were, or the joy in my life in that case, into the solution in my writing life. So I could have almost buckled under and shut up after the Booker. And there is a post-Booker lull, particularly in the UK, where there's a lot of energy and emotion around the Booker. Not so much in America, say. So you find you have recourse to different parts of your geographical mindset, you know. So I had to find the solution within the problem, and the solution was the readers and the huge new readership that I was winning or gaining.
But the reader is always your focus anyway in your writing, is it not? Or
I like the reader. Yeah. The reader is my friend. Yeah.
So your travels after you won the Booker took you to many different parts of the world. You went, and your books have been translated into many languages. How many?
There were 33, I think, or
33.
More actually. Yeah. More. There were more countries when I won the Booker than there had been 10 years previously. So you don't not just get Czech, you'd also get Slovak. Because of the fragmentation of Eastern Europe, you got more and more translations. So each Booker winner gets more new markets.
So you have no idea how your books have been translated, or do you have any? Do you have contact with your translators, or do they contact you?
I receive the books in the post, and they end up on the stairs, and I don't know what to do with them sometimes. And I can look quite closely at the German and the French translations. The German translation is just excellent, you know. A guy called Hans Christian Oeser, and he has a very good colloquial grasp of Irish idiom, and he translated short, which is brilliant to see in German, which is a language that tends to elaborate and add length to the books. So I was very happy with that. But what happened in Chinese is a mystery to me. I have no idea how.
Yeah. So you just have to trust your book to the translator.
You really do, and in all of it, I find, in the whole aspect of marketing, promotion, the outside world, resistance is sort of futile. If you try and, as Emily Dickinson says, you cannot fold a flood and put it in a drawer. If you stood there and say, no, I need to know now if the Chinese are doing this right, you'd be stuck forever. I mean, there are a few things I get really shirty about. I get quite upset about other people reading my work. So things like radio adaptations or audio tapes, I just have to ignore them because the voices are so strong in my head that I get really, really uncomfortable hearing somebody else reading them.
The colloquial is very important for you. You mentioned there in relation to the German translations. Yes. Why is that so important?
I think it's distinctive of Irish fiction that they that immediacy that immediacy with the reader, and I don't want to write books that are in any way high culture. I want to bridge the gap between high and demotic, low culture, because I think that's where the energy is. So if you ended up in some intellectual sort of other place, not reaching the common reader, then I think that's a problem, Mind you, Ulysses can read, lots of people read that. No, I retract that statement. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I have to say, in relation to that reading your book or your books, that you have that sort of sense. The dialogue is very important, and that you have the energy there. I think that comes through very, very much.
The thing that is precious to me, if anything, is the rhythms of the sentences. So, and the energy for the rhythms comes from the spoken word quite often. Yeah.
And this is something that you can see when you look at the German translation, for instance,
yes.
Or maybe the French either.
Yes. So how they circumlocution is a problem because you want it to hit the mark that you have hit, And a lot of my work is quite shortened, It's quite concise sometimes. Yeah.
You have in your latest book the Waltz. I'm sorry.
The Forgotten Waltz.
The Forgotten
title.
You have changed quite a lot from the theme of the gathering. It's a sort of a lighter book in many ways.
The Forgotten Waltz is a much more cheerful book in some ways, and the two narrators are kind of complementary. They're like bookends to me. That the books look at each other in some way. They're both written very strongly from the first person point of view, and they both are interested in the limits of what we see. I mean, how we are, of the subjective point of view. Yeah. So Veronica in The Gathering, there are various problems with the first person for her because she's not sure of the contents of her own head. She has a very honest attempt to do something that is unreliable by its nature. Whereas Gina in The Forgotten Waltz, it feels like she knows what she wants, and she knows that very strongly, but she doesn't know why she wants it particularly, or she doesn't exactly know what it is. She wants this man, Sean Vallely. She's obsessed by him, sexually obsessed, but she doesn't know what it is when she gets it. Do you know what I mean? When she gets the man, she doesn't, as perhaps none of us do. We don't know who we have in the bed beside us. It's a great mystery.
So this is what drives her through, this sort of desire, this obsession, if you like, that's very strong.
Yeah, she's infatuated, and she's, she wants him very strongly. So at the end of The Gathering, I felt very sorry for Veronica because we don't know what she wants, and it's almost like she doesn't know what she wants. So I wanted a narrator for whom wanting was not an issue in any way. And of course then that has other ramifications.
So the theme of love, Anne, is something central to your work. Love in many different ways. Yeah. You have love in the family, you have sexual love, you have all sorts of love. Do you like to comment on that, the importance of love for you as a theme in your writing?
I'm hugely interested in the difference between sexual love and, as it were, genetic love, and where they come together, which is in making children. And you get, romantic love joins biological love, as it were. So Veronica in The Gathering loves her family, and she's driven, demented by this fact that she had no choice in the matter, in who these people are. But they are given to her to love, and she has no option but to love them. And Gina falls in love in that very independent, individualistic, almost egotistical way with a man. But the man has a daughter, and the man loves his daughter in a way that is incontrovertible. And that sort of drives her a bit silly as well.
You have a quote here. I wanted just to read this to you. It's from The Gathering, and it says, "And what amazes me as I hit the motorway is not the fact that everyone loses someone, but that everyone loves someone. It seems like a massive waste of energy, and we all do it, all the people beetling around between the white lines, merging, converging, overtaking. We each love someone, even though they will die, and we keep on loving them, even when they are not there to love anymore. There's no logic to it, or use of any of this that I can see. So that sense of, it's a massive waste of energy. Do you, even though it compels you or drives many of your much of your writing, it is a waste of energy. What do you say about that?
Well, love is a terrible thing. Yeah. It undoes us. Yeah. And that undoing is sort of gorgeous. So,
it's this force that's very strong, that's difficult to describe, and yet it has such an extraordinary...
if I were a male writer, I might have these very disconnected narrators who don't love anyone. Yeah. I mean, they're very common in modern fiction, whose problem with love is its complete and utter absence. But it doesn't seem to me to be true to the way we are and what our problems and needs are. And it's almost a kind of bad faith, actually, but I wouldn't want to criticise. But it's more interesting to me to confront or to engage with the problem of loving people, there they are.
And related to that, of course, is the theme of infidelity, which is something that you see in your work also.
Yeah, I've been writing about infidelity nearly all my writing life. I find it really hard to write about monogamy, because writing about monogamy is almost like writing about home or about your undifferentiated self, It's about the centre somehow. And the fragmentation that happens with the desire for outside and other and all is very like the process of writing somehow. It's almost like writing itself is a bit of an infidelity.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It does. I think you mentioned the home, but I think that in relation to that, the infidelity, I think that reading The Forgotten Waltz is a very strong moral tone in the novel. What would you say about that? Do you purposely write with that sort of intention, or does it just come there?
I mean, The Forgotten Waltz is, for me, too moral a book. Again, it was something to do with the reader. I wanted to give the reader all the forbidden pleasures of an affair and all the moral satisfactions of finding the limits of that affair, reasons not to have an affair. And because, in my own life, I don't care what people do. I don't tend to judge people, certainly not sexually. And I think if I do judge people at all, it's about something about denial or bad faith, or when people don't know why they're doing what they're doing. So when people feel very moral about something but they're completely off course, which happens quite frequently. But yes, the book is helplessly moral. I mean, the novel is perhaps a moral form. When you're talking about connection, you're talking about responsibility in some way, and the novel makes connections.
And the responsibility in this case is the child, the daughter of the man that Gina is having an affair with.
Yeah. I mean, Gina is annoyed. A lot of my characters get annoyed as they fall in love. I mean, it's almost like Gina can't help loving the child because children disturb us in various interesting ways. And one of the ways they disturb us is by making us fond of them and making us like them. They're very likable creatures when they're not crying on a plane, you know. And it's interesting the way we look at other people's children as though we don't understand how anyone could like them somehow, and yet we love our own children unconditionally and completely. And somehow Gina makes that step out of the child over there to the child in here, you know, and begins to love Evie despite herself, you know.
The family is another theme that you concentrate on in your work, and I believe that's a focus of your next work. Or
yeah,
would you like to say something about that?
There's always a family. I mean, there's only 2 towns in this planet where people don't have families, and that's London and Manhattan. I mean, the rest of the world lives in a family. I'm always amused by people who don't get on with their families. I mean, who gets on with their family? You know, or they read in the papers, I don't like my mother. I don't go home for Christmas. Yeah. A lot of confessions in the papers in the UK recently about people who don't love the people they should be loving. And you kind of feel like saying, get on with it, you know. I mean, or who does, or, you know, perhaps that's not the point. Yeah. I think Ireland is, because it's small and because of the huge emigration issues over the last 100 years more, the family and holding the family together is a hugely important thing.
Yeah. I have a quote here from The Gathering. I do not think we remember our family in any real sense. We live in them instead. So there's that sense of you never really are free of your family, that you're sort of you're living in them all your life.
And there you hear your sister's intonation in your own voice, or you see your mother's face in the mirror, or you hear your father's joke, you know. I'm not, you know, the novel is about the individual, you know, or the Western novel is about the individual, and I think there's a very interesting space between that and the kind of no, I can't say that because it's too sweeping. Sorry, I was going to make a sweeping statement about Eastern novels and, you know, the novel tradition in India or whatever, where people are highly connected and there's no sense that anything else is possible.
Another focus that you have, I was interested to see that focus on silence as well. So the idea of silence is important for you. In the Gathering, there's a quote that I like silences, I think it is. Do you want to comment on that sort of idea of space where you can think and be away from all of this? If you think in connection with the family and so on, and people always around you, that sort of sense of silence is something that is valuable.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Veronica stays up all night and she has vague sort of auditory hallucinations, very tiny ones. I went away years and years ago. I went away for, I think, 6 weeks, and I didn't talk to anyone except 2 Jehovah's Witnesses. And I mean, I was quite young. I was in my 20s, and I got up later and later, and I never made it to the shop. It was in the middle of nowhere in the countryside, and I ended up living off tinned peaches and ready breck. Anyway, in the middle of the night, I was woken up by sheep coughing outside the window, and it was like a bomb going off. It was so loud. I came back to Dublin, and I was like, it's totally zen. I was speaking to people in a very sweet and necessary way. I do, yeah, that's an interesting thing. I mean, writers live in silence a lot of the time, and I like that. I like that. I have the radio on now when I'm working.
You said in an interview yesterday, I heard you talking about the fact that you like to observe people. You like to go into places where people are congregated, and you like to observe. I suppose that's also part of that, you know, what you need as a writer to be able to think and to
Yeah, you spend a lot of time in a room. Now I'm really fortunate. I have my kids coming in the afternoon, and I have life there. You know, someone to smile at. You know, and that's always it's a kind of blessed interruption, really. But I do love going out into the streets. I love seeing the whole go of people. I like seeing how people put themselves in the world and walk through the world. I do love looking at people and making perhaps observations and judgments about them that I shouldn't be making, you know.
What about your next book, Anne? Do you want to talk about that, or what are you working on at the moment?
I'm working really hard. I mean, I'm in the very the best phase of a book where you really need to get down and write it every day of the week. And despite the fact that I'm working all the time, I'm incredibly slow. I mean, I count my words sometimes in despair, but it's a book. It's a book. And,
when can we expect it? It's not in that at that stage yet when you can say when.
I can't
couple
say
of years probably.
I can't say a damn thing about it now.
You can't say a damn thing.
No.
But it has to do with family or coming back, or you don't.
Yeah, I am interested in a way in the idea of leaving and return. And I'm interested in people coming back and trying to fit back into a space that was once just right for them, and then they felt it was too small and had to get out. So I have some people coming back to Ireland. Irish people live quite globally, yes. And the books that we associate with Ireland strongly are very local, which is a huge strength of the Irish tradition. But the reality of Irish lives has been scattered to the four winds, you know. So I'm quite interested in that idea of exile and return, or not even exile, leaving and coming back.
Sort of homecoming, home and yes.
Actually, homecoming, I must look up that again. The Pinter play is fantastic. No, it's not going to be like that.
And
it might be a little.
It's ever the same when you come back, and it can't be the same. Yeah.
No, well, you never step into the same river twice. I think people change all the time, and I don't know if I have an essentialist view of what an individual is or not. If it's the same person who comes back after 20 years, or is that just a kind of biological accident that we're the same bunch of genetics walking back in, and if the person is the same at all. So that's something to think about.
So you have all of these people who go away and accumulate all of these experiences and come back, and they have the memories, and they have the, if you're thinking in terms of siblings in a family, that you have all of these memories that are there from previously, but yet all the experiences which are very different. So this is something that I think... from an Irish experience is very interesting.
I know, but I'm not going to. I may not do that now because I'm not.
I think that experience from speaking from my own experience, I think it's extremely interesting. You know,
I'm writing this book, and I want to. It's like I want to tell everyone. You're not in this book just because your life is in this book. The book is very like the lives of nearly everyone I know, and I think that's a very good sign. If everyone's in it, and not in it, because of course it's not. They're not in it, but if it's so close to the lives of the people I know that it's a concern for me, that means I'm on the right path.
But of course, exile is a very important theme, especially now in Ireland. You have very many people who are leaving Ireland and coming back, and not coming back, leaving again now, since things have changed, since the Celtic Tiger has collapsed.
It's not just about Ireland. I think a lot of the excitement in the novel in the last 10 years has been about populations in movement, and about the fact that we move between cultures all the time. So it's not just about Ireland returning to the dripping hedges and the cows, right? It's about how we live in the world now.
And how we have to change. I think on that note, Anne, we want to thank you so much for being here. It has been a pleasure to have you in Dalarna, and we look forward to you coming back here again sometime when the snow melts, maybe.
No, I love the snow. Thank
so
you very much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.